3,000 she deleted. Oh, the Russians are like, oh, sorry, we have a copy of that for you.
You know, it's interesting you said that, Alex, because that was one of the things I was going to say. Wayne Madsen, as we're over here, got a phone call from one of his sources in Washington, said there are a lot more documents that are about to be released.
Well, that's our intel as well. Yeah. Oh, how horrible. The Russians exposed the UN plan to carbon tax and kill billions. Oh, they're horrible. We'll be right back, David Knight, in 70 seconds. He's inside the convention hall. You can see the free feeds at Infowars.com/show. Want to bring in a world government and cut off more than 80% of the energy in the next 30 years? It'll kill billions. That's a conservative number. They had top scientists come out, demographers look at it. You want to try to break up families and poison people and dumb everybody down and replace everybody with robots, and you think you're going to merge the machines and play God, and you're going to cancel our elections and install yourselves and run around doing everything but riding on broomsticks. We're going to come after you. And just people all over the world, whether it's Donald Trump or David Knight, or whether it's Sally Soccer Mom out there, or whether it's the Russians. I mean, you try to bring in a worldwide tyranny, you code over it with a bunch of fancy garbage. Doesn't matter. You write white papers about your plan. So we've read those, and we know how horrible it is. And so, of course, people are hacking you. Whether it's people inside the U.S. government or the Russians, whether it's Snowden or the Russians or whoever. We're hacking you on the street legally and lawfully. What do you make of this delegate that we've caught, Project Veritas, and we caught her on the street again, just saying, oh, yeah, we bait and switch, we hide it from the public, she plans to ban the guns. Sensational.
Yeah, Alex, that's exactly what the documents are saying. And that's the key thing. You know, we can show reports. We know what's going on. We get testimony from people. A lot of it is dismissed as sour grapes until we get the kind of report that O'Keefe had, until we get the documents that have just been released by the DNC. That's what I was saying about Snowden. When we got the Snowden leaks, that made it all real for people. And I think that it's becoming real for everybody except the faithful followers here in this area here. No matter what she does, they are going to cheer her on because they're not concerned about anything. But the rest of the country is starting to understand. They're starting to understand and see the reality of what this is, just like they did with the Snowden leaks. And I think it's interesting when we look at the Snowden leaks, what was he telling us? He was telling us that our country, our government, was spying on Americans. And yet our government is not concerned about real secrets that are being leaked by this person who was not even qualified to have security access, security clearance. It was Bill Clinton's CIA director, who was facing jail time before Clinton pardoned him for doing exactly the same thing, but on a much, much, much smaller scale than Hillary Clinton did, having classified documents on his unsecured laptop. And he lost his security clearance. He didn't go to jail only because he was pardoned by Bill Clinton. But these people around here just say that everything that happens is simply a distraction to them from their worship of Hillary Clinton.
There's a lot of other things happening. What else are you focusing on? What else do we need to know about?
Well, Alex, you know, I think when we look at what's going on, maybe we ought to start looking around here, see if we can identify some of the bankers and bigwigs that we saw, you know, as we used to do that at Bilderberg.
That's right, the handlers. Let's show who's actually up on top, who's actually pulling the strings.
Yeah, and tonight what we're going to have is, I looked at the speaker lineup. Most of the people who are going to be speaking are people who are dreamers, or you've got somebody who was an anchor baby, concerned that her parents are going to be deported. That's the lineup that they've got coming up. Then you've got Bernie Sanders, who's going to talk. And that's going to be a key right there as to whether or not people are going to walk out of this convention in protest. I think they basically have already pretty much consolidated things just to the Hillary Clinton people. But that'll be one thing for us to watch tonight. But then they're going to close it with Michelle Obama giving a happy unity type of speech. That's going to be the anchor speaker for tonight. All
right, David, one thing I want you to do is do a report. Go around and talk to delegates and say, so are you going to go with the votes that were for Bernie or the super delegates like in California just ignoring the election, and just get them to admit that, because it's important to show the disconnect with these people and ask them if they're aware of this delegate, the new Gruber, who is saying, oh, I talked to Hillary, we're going to ban the guns, but we've got to bait and switch these people. I mean, I really think that's important. And I also want to get your take on, get their take on the emails as well. But I want to come back with you and I've got a few other questions for you and just get your view on what you've seen outside and what you expect those demonstrations to be like. And we're going to take a few phone calls and cover some other news. So thank you, David Knight. Stay right there. I'm Alex Jones. Infowars.com. PrisonPlanet.com is the backup site. And the way the globalists want to get rich is not by innovation, not by actually developing systems and technologies and then building humanity up. No, no, no. They want to take control, have a post-industrial world, make everyone as poor as possible. And Donald Trump is fighting that. UKIP is fighting that. The Russians are fighting that. All we're bringing back is a prosperity-based system and a population growth system. Now, you can try to make population flat. You can argue there's some overpopulation in some areas. But all the numbers, all the actuaries, the science is in unequivocally. We are seeing massive implosions in population with an average of 1.3 birth rate replacement in the first world, which is the engine of all the other civilizations. While the globalists block development in the third world to collapse civilization. They should at least have 2.1 children to have replacement rate so things don't collapse. And the third world is already set to start planing off at about 9 billion around 2025. That's the UN's own numbers. Then it starts plunging rapidly after that. The globalists are adding, again, fire to that whole thing. They're adding fuel to the whole situation. I'm going to go back to David Knight here in a moment, but the reason I was thinking about that was we can put up on screen for TV viewers Business Insider article from a few years ago, but you can go out there and just for your own research and see thousands of studies how adding iodine to salt resulted in a decade's worth of IQ gains for the United States. 15-point increase the feds registered after a decade of them putting it in the water in 1930s. Then they pulled the mandate in the 1970s. And that's even cruddy iodine. Now, this isn't a pitch for InfoWars X2 that is the purest, cleanest, best iodine out there, period. The stuff they sell in stores, I wouldn't take it. It'd leave a hole in your stomach. And I'm not going to even get into this because it's not hurting us, but you know when there's a talking point, when you see 20 articles in a week saying Jones is insane, iodine's kooky, no one uses it, there's no proof it does anything for your body. What? You die without it. But I'm not even going to give attention to these articles because I went and read. They have no comments on big public. I mean, people just, what? It's like saying you don't need any vitamin C. You die without it in a couple months. I mean, this is the mainstream media now that won't say Ali or Muhammad when the bombers attack. That's coming up after your calls. This is so comical if it wasn't so serious. Ladies and gentlemen, the governments of the world under Codex Alimentarius, the UN, every year are lowering the standard of what they claim you need of iodine, what you need of the good halogen, what you need of vitamin C, what you need of vitamin A, D12. And they got articles out saying, I'm crazy. There's no proof vitamin B12 is good for your brain. You die without it. Almost everyone above 75, look it up. It's even in the New York Times, for heaven's sakes. It's so schizophrenic now. Oh, this is horrible. Admit that you can't absorb it in your gut. And then old people's brains disintegrate. It's crazy, folks. You've got to inject it or take it out of the tongue. That's what doctors tell you. I decided to come out with this a few years ago because I went to a medical doctor when I was 40, and they were selling it, but by prescription. And I found out we could go make the same stuff under the tongue. I still inject vitamin B12. I hate needles. I don't stick it in my belly fat because I like sticking a needle in me every few days. And I take Secret 12, and I'll tell you, it doesn't absorb as much as an injection. But light years better to pill. But it's the exact same stuff. I mean, you look at this wall of ignorance, folks. I have articles here. I'm going to go to David Knight. I want to take on separate issues than your calls. Where they are in the news. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. And they are saying that they're not going to say the word terrorism anymore. Now the BBC's not doing it. And they changed the guy's name. In the latest attack, they have them every day. Machete attacks, action attacks, shooting attacks. A guy blew himself up, and his name was Ali. first name. So they changed it to David. BBC Scrubs Ollie from Munich Killer's name on TV and articles and on social media. And then in a new one where the guy, that's the shooter, blew themselves up, they said an Afghan refugee was blown up by a bomb planted by Germans. And then when it turns out it's a Muslim foreigner, they always say they're a German or a Frenchman. They're changing nationalities. They're changing religions. They're changing names. And then there's this latest one. Look at this. BBC reports German suicide bombing as if suicide bomber was the victim. Leftist media outlet continues to make apologies for Islamicists. That's like saying Jeffrey Dahmer was the victim of someone making him eat human meat. Or that's like saying Ted Bundy was the victim of being tortured to death in a basement. I mean, it's just, I've got to tell you something. I know Orwell was writing about Stalinistic systems that were already in place in Russia, but I would still read that book and think this would never happen. Now, they're beyond this in many cases, David. What do you make of them saying you do not need vitamin C, you do not need vitamin B12, you do not need iodine? I mean, that's like saying you do, Alex, I can sell cans of air. They'd come out and say you don't need oxygen. I could have a deal, say, in Cancun, where I ran a little place with a couple boats, dive teams, and I would sell oxygen tanks, filling them. And I would imagine they'd put out a call to the FDA to shut me down, claiming divers need oxygen. I mean, that is the equivalent of this insane. How far will they go? Do they think they control reality, or is it really effective, David Knight?
Well, Alex, you talked a long time as to the elite saying they don't need us in the future. They're going to have robots. This is a transitional phase. They're very concerned about how they're going to try to control the masses. They call us the precariat. It's one of the key talking points of the latest elite confab at Bilderberg. So the question for them is, are they going to try to foment a divide and conquer civil war revolution that's going to massively kill people? Or will they do a soft kill? What you're just talking about is part of the soft kill. Of course, they're proceeding with both aspects of that, the soft kill aspect, as well as creating the divide and conquer civil war, World War III, as they're trying to pick a fight again with the Russians, start up the Cold War. So they keep all of these options going at the same time.
That's right. And then they go, we've caught Alex Jones. He says the government's trying to kill you and then sells water filters. Exactly. We're funding ourselves, blocking enemy attacks, and defensively, and then offensively taking the money and waging absolute information warfare and having devastating success. Absolutely. Everything I tell listeners to do, David, everything I tell them to do, I do myself. Don't these idiots understand integrity? Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's right. I've used it myself. My friends have used it. We know if people try it, they know how it makes a difference in the way they feel.
Oh, yeah. They also say in these articles, notice Jones never makes claims. Why doesn't he show studies? Because the FDA says don't do that. So I'm going to say this. Yeah. You don't need iodine. You don't need DNA Force, even though that's patented. We can make claims. You don't need oxygen. You don't need anything, okay? Just buy the products to help fund the operation, okay? They're totally worthless, but if you want to fight tyranny, buy the products. There you go. You don't need vitamin C. You don't need vitamin A. You don't need vitamin B12. You don't need iodine, okay? But buy the products if you want to fund this. Of course, that's satire, but, I mean, fine. And they're so mad we won't make claims so they can't come after us because our listeners aren't idiots, scum. I guarantee the filth gives stuff to their kids, but they don't want our kids to have it. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, Alex, on another note, you're talking about supplements, but, think about when you go to the restaurant, you get a Chinese fortune cookie. I'm looking at these balloons up here in the ceiling as we're waiting on break, and I was thinking, I wonder if there's 20,000 balloons up there. We all remember the end of these conventions, as we just saw with the Republican convention, where they release all the balloons. Think about it. Each of those balloons having an incriminating email from the DNC inside of it, like a fortune cookie. Okay, that's really the release that's already happened just prior to this convention. And we're going to see more of these things coming out, I believe, in the next few weeks. Or next few days, I should say.
I feel the spirit of liberty rising. Do you feel like momentum is totally turned against the globalist?
Yeah, but, I really don't know if there's going to be a pushback amongst the people here in the convention, because one of the canaries in the coal mine, I would say, is the fact that when they were meeting in the rules committees, they decided they tried to get rid of this whole idea of giving them so many superdelegates and trying to push back against that. They're leaving the entire system of superdelegates in place. So that tells you that the DNC, the Clinton people, are thoroughly in charge here. And I don't really know how many people that are going to be coming here as delegates are really going to do anything about it. I think inside the convention, I don't know that you're going to have a walkout. Certainly outside, we're seeing protests like we did not see at the GOP convention. It's